Good afternoon, students. In this video, we will discuss the properties of the sewing thread, the size of the sewing thread, and some application areas of the sewing thread. So far, in the previous video, we have discussed that what properties sewing thread should have, that is in terms of abrasion resistance, tensile strength, so that it can withstand the stresses exerted on the sewing thread and on the seam during stitching and in the after use when that garment made from that seam and the sewing thread will be worn or used by the garment, used by the wearer, or it will be washed. So we had discussed that there are different properties which a sewing thread should possess so that it can perform well and can exhibit good sewing performance. Then we discussed the different fiber types and the construction of the sewing thread. So next we'll be discussing the ticket number, which is related to the size of the sewing thread or the coarseness or the fineness of the sewing thread. This is similar to the yarn numbering system for the yarns that are used, like cotton count, metric count, worsted count, that is the different direct and indirect numbering system. So likewise for sewing thread, in order to determine the size of the sewing thread, a parameter known as ticket number has been provided. So there are two types of ticket numbers, cotton ticket number and metric ticket number. Cotton ticket number is used for sewing threads made from natural fibers, and metric ticket number is used for sewing threads which are made from synthetic fiber yarns like polyester, polyamide and all. So if we talk about cotton ticket number, so basically cotton ticket number is derived from the cotton count or the English count, which is used for the yarns. So cotton ticket number is 3 times that of the cotton count. If we say that what is cotton count, so it is the number of hanks of 840 yard which weigh 1 lb. But when we have to define cotton ticket number, so cotton ticket number is number of hanks of 840 yards which weigh 3 lbs. So that is why this kind of calculation where we multiply the single yarn count with 3 is given, because this cotton ticket number is giving the weight of 3 lbs instead of 1 lb as in case of the cotton yarn. So in order to evaluate the ticket number for any sewing thread, how does that calculation is done? That single yarn count which is given in NEs, it is multiplied by 3 because of the reason that I mentioned, and divided by the number of plies. The number of plies which make that sewing thread. For example, a 2-plied sewing thread will be consisting of 2 plies, so that you have 2 in the denominator. A 3-plied sewing thread will be composed of 3 plies, and here in the denominator this factor will be divided by 3. So we can see some examples, and ticket number is abbreviated as TKT number. And any, if it is any, then it is representing cotton ticket number, and if it is written as NM TKT number, so it means that it is representing metric ticket number for synthetic sewing threads. So if we have been given this kind of figure, 3 by 60s 60s thread, so that means it has 3 plies. The sewing thread is composed of 3 plies, and this is the yarn count that has been given. So ticket number will be given by the single yarn English count divided by the number of plies multiplied by 3. So this 60 divided by 3, this will give the resultant count for a single ply, and that multiplied by 3, because as I told that cotton ticket number is 3 times that of the cotton count, or it gives the weight of 3 lbs rather than 1 lb in case of cotton count. So that is why this has been multiplied by 3 here, which gives the ticket number of 60. Similarly, if we have a 4-plied sewing thread where 4 is representing the number of plies which will go in the denominator as shown here to obtain the resultant count. So 80, which is the count here, 80 divided by 4 multiplied by 3, that will give us the ticket number for that sewing thread, which was represented this way. So this ticket number is based on indirect numbering system, that is higher the ticket number, the finer the sewing thread. And NM is representing the metric ticket number here, which is used for synthetic sewing threads, but the calculation remains the same for metric ticket numbers also. Like this is a 3-plied sewing thread composed of 3 plies, so the resultant count will be 70 divided by 3, and it is multiplied by 3 because the metric ticket number will be 3 times that of the metric count. That is, if metric count is giving the weight of 1 gram, metric ticket number will be indicative of the weight of 3 grams. So 70 into 3 divided by 3, so it will give 70 as the ticket number for this sewing thread, represented as this. And for a sewing thread composed of 4 plies with a count of 120 nm, its metric count can be determined when the resultant count or the count of 1 ply is obtained by dividing 120 with 4. That gives you 30 and multiplied by 3, because it is analogous to the weight of 3 grams multiplied by 3. So this gives the ticket number. So we have two types of ticket numbers: cotton ticket number, which is based on cotton count system, and metric ticket number used for synthetic sewing threads based on metric count. So this is the process by which the sewing thread is formed. So when we obtain the yarn from ring frame, it undergoes a series of processes before it can be packaged and can be sent to the sewing room for performing the different sewing operations. So ring spun yarn will be subjected to steaming. Then it will be wound onto the cones. Cheese winding can be done. It is doubled. Then again it is cheese wound. Steaming is done. Then reeling is an optional process. If required, it can be done. Then it is subjected to wet processing, followed by rewinding, spooling, labeling, and finally the packaging of that sewing thread is done. So selecting the right sewing thread for the application is of course very important. Where that sewing thread will be used for making the garments, for home textiles, or for accessory industry. So sewing thread will of course be used wherever we have to join the pattern pieces, whether you talk about footwear, handbags, or in garments. The sewing threads have to be used, but then we need to select the right type of sewing thread as far as its size is concerned, as we just discussed, based on the ticket number. What size, what coarseness or fineness of the sewing thread should be chosen for the garment or the accessory? What should be its thread construction, whether Z-twisted, S-twisted, monofilament, multifilament sewing thread is to be used, and what type of fiber type is to be chosen. That is, the sewing thread should be made from polyester cotton, 100% polyester or 100% cotton, or core sheath construction. That will depend on the application area or the end use where we need to use that sewing thread. For example, if we talk about thread construction, polyester cotton coarse spun sewing thread is generally preferred where we are working with leather and such like materials. Similarly, Z-twisted sewing thread is generally preferred for sewing on lock stitch machine. Why Z-twisted sewing thread is used on lock stitch machine? Now this is a very important question, because in lock stitch, when stitching is taking place, needle also has a tendency to insert some twist into the sewing thread, and the needle is inserting the twist in small magnitude, but it is in Z direction. So if we use a sewing thread which has S twisted, so the Z twist imparted by needle will tend to open up the sewing thread. So in order to avoid it, we prefer the use of Z twisted sewing thread on the lock stitch sewing machine, so that the Z twist imparted by needle does not open the sewing thread if it is S twisted. So we need to understand that on what kind of sewing machine we are working, what kind of material we are working with, what would be the end use or the application area of the product that we are developing. Based on that, the right kind of sewing thread needs to be selected. So adequate seam strength is required. the thread size, whether it is in metric ticket number or cotton ticket number. We want a such kind of sewing thread which should provide good strength to the seam, which provides minimum needle holes on lightweight knits, and it should give a bold contrast stitch appearance on the denim. And another important requirement is to avoid the seam puckering on tightly woven fabrics. In woven fabric, there is a tendency of fabric wrinkle taking place along the seam. So there we need to use the fine sewing thread so that this problem of seam pucker can be avoided. So we can use different thread sizes. Smaller thread size, like if we are comparing in terms of text, so 18, 24 and 30 text. So in 18 text, the seam pucker or the wrinkled appearance will be minimal. As can be seen here, it is giving a smooth appearance along the seam compared to when we use a 30 text sewing thread, which will give some wrinkled appearance along the seam portion of the garment. So the selection of the right thread for sewing will also depend on the seam type, on the stitch type that we are forming. For example, for making the lock stitch, cotton threads are generally preferred because they can provide up to 50% extensibility in the garments. When fabric with 30 to 100% extensibility are to be sewn, synthetic threads must be used. Normal synthetic threads can provide up to 60% extensibility. Using nylon as the bobbin thread can extend them further by 20%. So extensibility is an important property because when that garment will be worn, if the sewing thread is not extensible, so there are chances of seam cracking or grinning, or in that portion there would be too much of tension, so that is not required. So it should be extensible, and what extensibility we require, it will depend on the fabric from which that garment is made, and the sewing thread extensibility should be at par with that of the fabric from which the garment is made. Chain stitch, as this seam is generally used on elastic fabrics, so for this synthetic threads are preferred. Then for ready to dye garments, what kind of sewing thread can be used? Soft cotton thread is the choice for these kind of garments. Mercerized thread should not be used because their dye affinity is much greater. Cotton covered core threads cannot be used because the underlying polyester filament will not be dyed during the garment dyeing. So we need to dye both the cotton and polyester parts. So generally this is not preferred for ready to dye garments. Choosing the right size of the thread will depend on the seam strength, the fabric weight and the end use. What application area is required, what is the fabric weight or the areal density, and what should be the seam strength or durability. Based on that, the size of the thread needs to be chosen. And other than that, the dye uptake or the color fastness of the chosen thread is very important. Sewing thread must not change its color when the garment will be washed, when it will be subjected to drying. So sewing thread should not change its color. Change in color won't affect the durability or the strength of the seam, but of course it would affect the appearance. And such a garment where the in the seam portion the sewing thread is faded will not give a very good appearance, and it should not stain any material adjacent to the seam. If during washing the color bleeds out from the sewing thread, it can cause stains on the fabric adjacent to the portion where sewing thread is used. So that is not desirable. So we need to take care that what kind of sewing thread is being used, what properties it possesses. It should have good color fastness. And other than this, another important thing in sewing thread is the sewing thread packages. We can have different type of thread packages on which the sewing thread is wound. For example, we have seen in lock stitch two type of sewing thread packages are used, that is spool or cork, which is used for supplying the needle thread, and bobbin, which provides the under thread for forming the lock stitch. Similarly, in chain stitch, over edge, these type of sewing machines, we have seen that spool, cork or cone provides the needle thread, and there is a looper on the bottom side where the thread is supplied by means of cones. So similarly, we can have different type of sewing thread packages based on what quantity of sewing thread is to be required, what would be the production run, for what is the speed of the sewing machine. So based on that, we can have different type of sewing thread packages. So that will be discussed in the next lecture. So hope this video was useful for you in understanding the concepts of sewing thread. Thank you.